We all love an underdog. It's the absolute lifeblood of American sports. But what happens when the two greatest underdog quarterbacks of our generation both hoist the Heisman Trophy and both lock themselves in as the consensus #1 overall pick in the NFL draft? You get Joe Burrow.
I don't know that anybody can stand on a field and watch Joe Burrow and say he's not the best player in the world.
I think if you ask anybody in the league right now, this ain't just me. We talked about in the locker room, we said Joe Burrow was the best quarterback we faced.
And you get Fernando Mendoza.
That kid's tough.
He gave me big Jameis Winston vibes for sure.
But the Lord has blessed me to play in some snow.
He's a baller. He's going to win.
Fernando Mendoza going into the draft, he should be the #1 pick on everybody's draft board.
When I'm listening,
On paper, their resumes look identical. You'd think they were cloned in a lab to play out the exact same Hollywood script. But once you turn on the tape and look at the fire that drives these two men, the similarities vanish. One is an icy, surgical assassin. The other is a deeply emotional, physical brawler. They have completely different playstyles, totally different mentalities, and took two entirely different paths to football immortality. Let's start with where they came from, because the origins of a quarterback tell you everything you need to know about how they process pressure when the pocket inevitably collapses around them. Joe Burrow's chip on his shoulder was built by rejection at the absolute highest level of the sport. Here is a highly touted hometown Ohio kid who simply couldn't get on the field at Ohio State. He was buried on the depth chart behind JT Barrett and Dwayne Haskins. He even broke his hand at the worst possible time, costing him a chance to compete. He was in the room with the big dogs, wearing the scarlet and gray, but he was treated as an afterthought by Urban Meyer.
When I got there, so I knew I wasn't going to play early, and then battled injuries throughout my career there, and was never able to see the field, and it was really a struggle for me.
So he gambled his entire future. He transferred down south to LSU and completely shattered the collegiate record books in 2019. He threw 60 touchdowns, orchestrated the single greatest college season we've ever seen, and proved to the entire world exactly what Ohio State missed out on.
I battled through a lot of injuries, and I would say those injuries are the most significant moments. Broke my hand, hurt my shoulder, my knee last year. I've just been resilient through those rehab processes and got me to where I'm at today.
Then Joe Burrow proved the system wrong.
22-year-old quarterback Fernando Mendoza led the Indiana Hoosiers through an undefeated season, a national championship, and won the Heisman Trophy. This after being barely recruited, just a two-star prospect and a third string at his previous college.
With Fernando Mendoza's origin story is entirely different. He wasn't rejected by the big dogs. He wasn't even invited into the yard. Think about this kid's journey for a second. He was a grinder playing down in Miami at Christopher Columbus High School. He throws for over 1,400 yards, leads his team to an 1-1-3 record, and the national recruiting gurus completely, utterly ignored him. When the national rankings came out, they had him listed as the 134th best quarterback in his class. Let that sink in. The supposed experts looked at the tape and decided 133 high school kids were better than him at throwing the football. National Signing Day is approaching. The big SE, C and AC schools are nowhere to be found, and he is literally packing his bags, ready to give up big-time football to go play for Yale in the Ivy League, just to get a world-class education. It took a desperate 11th-hour lifeline offer from Cal just to keep his Division I dream alive. And even then, he had to sit. He had to hold the clipboard. He grinded out starts for a struggling Golden Bears program before finally making the massive gamble in December of 2024 to transfer to Indiana to play for Curt Cignetti.
Fernando Mendoza is constantly in tears in these press conferences. He's in tears in these on-field interviews because he cares so deeply. People would look at him and they'd say that he's the farthest thing from alpha if you watch those interviews, but then you watch him on the field and he's the best college football player in the world. And that's what matters. No one cares how tough you look. People care about how you show up, and how you perform. So true discipline, it's not loud, it's quiet. I'd argue that arrogance is loud. It's born out of insecurity. In our political moment, there's a whole lot of very insecure, loud, arrogant people. But actual confidence, actual discipline, it's quiet. It's about doing the work, not just talking about it.
To the casual fan, jumping to Indiana sounded crazy. But Cignetti saw the raw physical talent, and together, they built an absolute juggernaut. Burrow proved the system wrong. Mendoza proved the system didn't even know what it was looking for in the first place.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit.
And their motivations, the way they handle the blinding spotlight, they are worlds apart. Burrow is this fascinating modern paradox. On the field, he is a stone-cold assassin. They call him Joe Cool, Joe Shiesty. He operates with this effortless, cigarette-smoking swagger. But behind the designer shades and the diamond chains, he has openly, candidly admitted that he actually hates the overwhelming attention. He hates the Hollywood lifestyle. He hates the cameras in his face when he goes out to dinner. It gives him genuine anxiety. He is an introverted football purist who uses that icy swagger as a protective armor against the chaotic circus of professional sports. Mendoza operates entirely differently. He wears his heart completely on his sleeve. His toughness doesn't come from a manufactured swagger. It comes from a deeply personal, incredibly grounded place. To understand Fernando, you have to rewind all the way back to 1959, when all four of his grandparents fled the Cuban Revolution, coming to America with absolutely nothing but the clothes on their backs. He carries that generational weight like a badge of absolute honor. But the real fire inside him, the thing that gets him up in the weight room at 4 in the morning when nobody is watching, that comes from his mother. For years, she quietly, painfully battled multiple sclerosis. She hid the diagnosis from Fernando and his younger brother Alberto, so it wouldn't cast a shadow over their childhood. When Fernando finally found out the truth about what she was enduring in silence, his entire perspective on life, pain, and sports completely shifted. Football was no longer just a game for him to play on Saturdays. It became a microphone. It became a platform to fight back. He mobilized. He used his growing platform at Indiana to raise over $125,000 for MS research, and just before he walked up to the podium in New York to accept the Heisman Trophy, his mom wrote him a letter. It didn't talk about his 41 passing touchdowns. It simply said, "You've made me feel seen." That's where Mendoza learned that toughness doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be chest beating on a sideline. It can be a quiet, daily, grinding strength. You look at his Heisman acceptance speech, delivered flawlessly in both English and Spanish, honoring his family's journey. It was perfect. It was emotional. It was inspirational. It was entirely authentic to him. I'm not going to lie, watching that speech, I was in tears. It is physically impossible to root against this guy. Now, let's talk about what happens between the white lines. Because as much as we love the emotional stories and the off-field character, you have to win football games. And this is a clash of two radically distinct football philosophies. Joe Burrow is a cerebral mastermind. A true surgeon, he dissects elite defenses pre-snap with the clinical precision of a 15-year veteran. He relies on elite pocket presence, manipulation with his eyes, and a silky smooth, lightning-fast release. He isn't going to outrun a defensive end, and he doesn't have a Josh Allen-style laser beam for an arm. He doesn't need to. He plays violent chess. He wins with absolute surgical finesse, throwing his receivers open before they even make their break. But then you look at Mendoza. Fernando is a tank. Standing 6'5" and a sturdy 236 pounds, he plays an entirely different brand of football. He is a massive, long-levered brawler with a cannon for a right arm and devastating straight-line running ability. While Burrow dances and slides in the pocket to avoid contact, Mendoza is a four-quarter flatline guy. He doesn't flinch when the blitz is coming in hot. Look no further than their defining championship moments. Burrow carved up Clemson from the pocket to win his ring at LSU. But look at Mendoza in the January 2026 National Championship game against the Miami Hurricanes. Here he is, playing in Hard Rock Stadium, the exact city that built him, against the hometown program that didn't even bother to send him a recruiting letter out of high school. It's a grueling, physical dogfight. Fourth quarter, 9 minutes and 18 seconds left on the clock. 4th and 4. The entire undefeated season hanging in the balance. Mendoza doesn't hand the ball off. He doesn't throw a quick finesse slant. He calls his own number, a quarterback draw. He takes off for 12 yards, lowers his shoulder, spins through brutal contact from a linebacker, and dives headfirst into the end zone to win the game. A perfect 16-0 season, pure, unadulterated willpower. But here is where the story turns into a cautionary tale about the reality of the National Football League. For Joe Burrow, that surgical finesse requires one thing above all else: a clean pocket, and the Cincinnati Bengals have brutally, historically failed to provide it. Burrow was drafted by a notoriously frugal franchise that failed to protect him, turning his absolute athletic prime into a physical gauntlet of trauma. Just look at the laundry list. He's suffered a torn ACL and MCL in his rookie year, a grotesquely dislocated pinky finger, a torn ligament in his throwing wrist, and a severe grade 3 turf toe. Because the Bengals historically field terrible defenses and trot out weak patchwork offensive lines, Burrow is forced to play near-perfect hero ball every single week. He has to carry the weight of an entire billion-dollar organization on his shoulders, and his body is physically breaking down because of it. It's the ultimate paradox of his greatness. He's too talented to fail, but his environment constantly ensures he falls just short of the ultimate prize. He is carrying a cursed franchise, paying for their front office mistakes with his own blood and ligaments. Mendoza, on the other hand, is entering the league completely differently. We saw exactly who he is at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. He walks into Lucas Oil Stadium as the undisputed consensus #1 pick, and he flat out refuses to throw a single pass. He goes on the Pat McAfee show and says, "Look, I want to throw at my pro day. I want to throw to my guys. I want my running backs and my receivers to get the scouts' eyes on them so they can get drafted too." That is pure, unselfish, franchise-altering leadership. Behind the scenes, the Combine stories were wild. That might have been the funniest media interview of all time. I was in tears laughing when he revealed that an unnamed NFL team literally suggested he should go out and get arrested so his draft stock would tank and he would slide down the board to them. He laughed it off, but it shows exactly how desperate these billionaire front offices are to get a culture changer like him in their building. And now, he's heading to the Las Vegas Raiders, a team that holds the #1 pick and is actively building an absolute juggernaut. Sitting across the table from him in his formal 18-minute Combine interview was Tom Brady, the Raiders' minority owner, and Mendoza's absolute childhood idol, the exact guy he patterned his obsessive work ethic around. To go from an unranked afterthought who almost played Ivy League ball to having the greatest quarterback to ever touch a football evaluate you to be the face of his franchise, it gives you genuine goosebumps. Burrow proved he could carry a broken franchise on his back, but it might end up costing him his career. But the scariest part about Fernando Mendoza? He is bringing that quiet, brawler toughness into a franchise that is actually ready to carry him. The scouts said he wasn't fast enough. The rankings said he was the 134th best. He proved every single one of them wrong, with nothing but grueling hard work and an unbreakable love for his family. And the absolute best chapter of Fernando Mendoza's story hasn't even been written yet.